All right. Seeing that 6:09, I'll call the Town of Webster Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Monday, June 21st, 2021 to order. Couple of things before we get started. This meeting is being recorded. The other thing is that there are no COVID protocols in place that we've been observing for a little over a year. So if you want to wear a mask, you may do so, but there is no cleaning of the microphone after somebody speaks. So with that, first item on the agenda is reorganization of the board. I'd like to thank Mr. Daggett and I believe Mr. Mason, or did you re-up? Or was it Mr. Canoy?
Yes.
Yes, you did. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Good continuity between the board members and whatnot, and thank you for your service.
Thanks.
So reorganization, we have chairman, vice chair, and clerk. Is there any nominations for chairman?
I make a nomination for you to continue.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? All right. Hearing no other nominations, is there a motion to close nominations?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, will you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Knoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fales?
Yes.
And Mr. Piotr?
Yes. By roll call vote, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board for their votes for chairman?
Oh, yes. Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Knoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fales?
Yes.
Mr. Piotr?
Yes.
Okay.
Congratulations.
I always joke, if somebody else ever wanted it, I'd be just as aggressive, with my questions, as not being chairman. I'll open nominations for vice chairman.
I'll nominate Dan Knoyer.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nomination, is there a motion to close nominations for vice chairman?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Knoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fales?
Yes.
Mr. Piotr?
Yes.
And for the motion on the table?
Motion on the table.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Knoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes. Mr.
Mr. Fales?
Yes.
And Mr. Piotr?
Yes. Congratulations. All right, and for clerk, open nominations for clerk.
I will nominate Chris Daggett.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion to close nominations?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Knoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fales?
Yes.
And Mr. Piotr?
Yes.
And for the vote at hand, Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Knoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fales?
Yes.
Mr. Piotr?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous.
All right. Approval of meeting minutes from May 25th. Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes?
Yes.
Would somebody make a motion to accept those minutes as written?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Knoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fales?
Yes.
Mr. Piotr?
Yes.
5-0. Okay.
Draft decision on the variance application for 60 Colonial Road. So we've received the draft decision. It's being presented on the screen.
Let's go.
for
And
those
it will
minutes.
be. And And here we go.
Would
How far- you want me
care-
to-
Would you take the board through the decision?
Yes. This first section, background, outlines the various dates. I see an extra comma in there that doesn't belong. Takes you through the dates in which the application was processed, when we received it, meeting who was present. All 5 of you are eligible to vote on this application, and the hearing was closed on May 25th. The exhibits is a full list of all documents that were received prior to the close of the hearing throughout that entire time in which the application was in the office and through the public hearing. So you'll see there are a number of exhibits. Your findings of fact, findings F1 through F6, 7, through F11, F1 through F11 catalogs, conversations and testimony you received at the hearing, including from the applicant's attorney, the applicant's engineer, the abutters, to which there was a one person representing a series of abutters who were on that Zoom call, and then any correspondence received, including correspondence from the abutters' attorney, and any comments we received from other departments, including the Water and Sewer Department, Fire Department, and the Conservation Agent. So that's findings F1 through F11, and then you get into the specific findings, the 4 specific findings to guide you towards a decision. If you vote to approve it, some draft conditions are there. This is very specific because this case involves minimum lot size requirement. So would be the standard conditions to have it registered, to have it filed with the Registry of Deeds within a certain period of time. It's a 30-day period. And basically stating that the minimum lot size should not be creating any new violations. If they go to apply for a permit and their setbacks are incorrect, that would be new violations. So those are draft conditions. You can add as much or as little as you want to that. I'm just going to scroll back up to, did you want to go through any of the findings F1 through F11?
What is the pleasure of the board? I've reviewed this decision already, so. All right. Is there a motion to accept findings F1 through F11?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Is there any discussion on the findings? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, please poll the board.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
And Mr. Piattar?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now you get into the 4 criteria for granting the variance. Anything you see in yellow requires action, or the motion is there for you to do as you please with that, or to use it as written. But the unique site conditions, you would want to add some language as to what your thoughts are on that before you.
Okay. I'll start. I'll find that the small shape of the lot, which is unique to the current state of Colonial Road, satisfies the unique site conditions requirement. Seeing that the rest of them are larger, but it was as it was designed before subdivision control came into effect. Would anybody else care to make a finding?
No.
All right. Is there a motion that the applicant has demonstrated that there are unique site conditions?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
And Mr. Piattar?
Yes.
Hardship.
Hardship. I'll start again, and I'll find that there is a hardship because the applicant would be required to acquire necessary land from an abutter to increase the lot size above 5,000 feet, which the applicant asserted that the abutters would be unwilling to sell, and even if they were, it would be a exorbitant price. And additionally, a hardship would occur because the lot would remain unusable and be devalued such that it would be required to be sold at a lesser price to an abutter. Would anybody else care to make a finding?
No.
Is there a motion to find that the applicant has demonstrated a hardship?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, will you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
And Mr. Piattar?
Yes.
Okay.
Public good, here I'll start again. I'll find that that it satisfies the public good requirement because no public safety risks were raised under comment by the fire department. A single-family dwelling will create no excessive noise, dust, or like activity, and there would be no significant increase in traffic in the area, even if it was assumed that a single-family residential home had 2 cars present and coming and going from the property. So I'll find that it doesn't create a substantial detriment from the public good. Is there anybody else who would care to make a finding? All right. Is there a motion to find that the application does not create a substantial detriment to the public good?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
Mr. Piattar?
Yes. Zoning. I'll find that the applicant does not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent and purpose of from the zoning bylaw. First, because this is a single-family dwelling, which is allowed in lake residential area. The applicant's structure conforms to all the setback requirements, the front yard, rear yard, and side yard. There's also 17 undersized lots that the applicant identified that have been built upon, most notably 27 Point Pleasant Road, which has a house that occupies 572 square feet of an 860 square foot property, which is 67% coverage. The applicant's structure would only occupy 22% of his 3,227 foot lot. So I will find that it does not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent or purpose of the Webster zoning bylaws. Is there anybody else who would care to make a finding? Is there a motion to find that the applicant did demonstrate that relief, if granted, would not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent or purpose of the Town of Webster zoning bylaw?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All right, hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
Mr. Piattar?
Yes. Is there a motion to grant the variance with the conditions C1 through C4 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
Mr. Piattar?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Right. Let's go back to...
Why won't it let me jump back? Okay.
All right, continuation on the public hearing for 4 Bartlett Street, appeal of the zoning violation citation for operation of a sawmill in a multifamily residential zoning district, and variance application to construct a live-in office and to operate a church-owned tree business, including storage of vehicles. Is the applicant present?
I'm here to represent him. He's not present, he couldn't make the meeting. My name is Bernard Gomer.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, sorry for the wires, a lot of them.
It's all right.
Would you just mind stating your name and address, please, for the record?
My name is Bernard Gomer. My address is 2.5 Mill Road, Foster, Rhode Island. And I'm a friend of his. I'm here, he asked me to take pictures to show the board. I took pictures. I spent 4 hours at Staples and got no pictures to show for it, you know. Had to run off every 2 minutes. I found somebody that said I can go there tonight and they'll print them up for me. So I don't have them to show you unless you want to look at my phone. I show all the pictures of all the equipment he has on the property. And the problem, I think, was with the sawmill.
Yes, that is one of the issues.
One of the issues, right. Sawmill is located on the downside of the property. From what I understand, the line kind of runs through the middle. You got residential at the top and business at the bottom. It's a small mill. It's not loud. It's a bandsaw. It's mounted on a trailer. And he really doesn't use it now that he's built this fence around the place. So it's not like he runs it full-time no more, not really at all.
Okay, do you have any comments on the unregistered or inoperable vehicles that are there?
He's been getting registered more vehicles. I put plates on 2 vehicles yesterday. He's been taking some out. I myself personally drove some to California. And he has equipment. If you want to see my phone, you can look at the pictures. He has his office in that trailer and that storage. He has a lot of tools and for the business and equipment that needs to be taken out of the weather, you know, put inside.
All right.
I'm here to answer any questions you have because I don't have the whole story, no.
Yeah, no, that I think, I know for me, that is a problem that, you know, we asked for pictures, evidence. I think for myself, your testimony is more akin to public comment in the scenario. You know, saying that you claim you claim you represent him, or
Yes.
yes. There might be some issues there as well, I think. Counsel,
I'm
yeah.
happy to comment.
Yeah.
If you'd like.
Yeah.
I would enjoy a comment. For the record, I hope everyone can hear me. Brian Winter, Board Counsel. So this does create a procedural problem. I mean, technically, the applicant has failed to appear for the hearing tonight. And while, if I'm getting this correctly, Mr. Garman is stating that he represents his interests. He's presumably not his attorney.
No.
So you're not representing him in that capacity. So he really, as you stated, Mr. Chairman, is here as an interested member of the public. Although I think I heard your address was from Rhode Island, not as an abutter, member of this community.
Right.
So this was continued so that you could hear that additional evidence. So I think the question before the board is how do you want to proceed in light of the failure to receive that evidence and the failure for the applicant to appear this evening and pursue both of the applications pending before the board. It's really up to the board's discretion how you want to make the next move at this point.
We did hear, I believe we heard over an hour of testimony from the applicant, and we did ask for some very specific evidence, hard evidence, either photographs, video, or otherwise, relating to the trailer and the office, and which was alleged to be for habitation. and that the unregistered and or inoperable vehicles had been removed. I think I'm of the opinion that we've tried with this applicant. This will be the third. We've had one continuation initially. There's been several communications, and I would like to close the public hearing at this point.
On both matters, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, on both matters. What is there a motion or other feelings from the rest of the board?
I'll make that motion.
Motion to close the public hearings for the zoning violation and for the variance application?
Correct.
Correct. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, is there any discussion to close the public hearings? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
Mr. Piattar?
Yes. Thank you, sir. All right, special permit application, expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming side yard setback for 70 Bates Point Road. Mr. Shakely, I think where we left off last time, oh.
What?
Or you, I kind of recognized you from the Zoom.
I'm Leslie Wilson.
Okay,
I'm the engineer. I work for HS&T Group,
Right.
75 Hammond Street.
Right.
So we are back with a revised plan that I sent over electronically today that represents the front yard setback that was required at the last hearing of 46.1 feet. I believe we had it shown at 20 feet
Yep.
at the time. So we moved the front of the house back to the 46.
could you just, I don't mean to stop you in your tracks, but I don't have that in front of me, and I'd like to, Ms. Moore, could you pull
Yeah.
that up?
I must have posted it to a different project. What I can tell you is I looked it over and have confirmed that it is pushed back
All right,
to the correct setback, and that the side yard setback to which this application is a special permit, that's what you're dealing with specifically now, is just the side yard setback. So they've met the requirement for the front yard setback, but the side yard setback hasn't changed. I apologize, I can go digging around in my email if you'd like.
no, I trust you. The other question that we had outstanding was, would a carport be considered part of the structure?
Yes, the
Yes.
building commissioner confirmed that, and as a result, the plan was revised to push it all the way back to allow for that to happen without violating the front yard setback.
Okay. So you realize you would have to, with this special permit, you to infringe upon that front yard setback? You'd
Yes.
have to come back for a variance?
We understand that, yes.
Okay.
We're here tonight just for the side yard setback.
For the special permit to expand it, right?
Just- Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. I would invite any members of the public to, who are here that would care to comment. I'd give them that opportunity, and then I'll allow you or Dr. Shakely to make a closing statement, should you choose.
Okay.
All right. Are there any members of the public who would care to comment on this application? Hearing none. Any last comments from you or the applicant?
I
No,
think you
no.
have one.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll have to...
yeah, you have to
switch
use the
places.
mic. Yeah,
Yes, trouble hearing.
okay.
I can't hear any of you people today, even with the hearing aids. You know, can you pull your microphones closer? I mean, you all got good loud voices, I'm sure.
Right.
But
My apologies.
it doesn't come through to me at all.
We're-
So could you just give me a little synopsis of what just was said by the lady in front of me?
So there was an issue raised on May 25th where in a butter, and don't have his name in front of me, raised an issue with a bylaw, 65021C, that states that that for the front yard setback, you average the front yard setbacks of all of the properties within 300 feet of the applicant's property. And normally in lake residential areas, that setback is 20 feet. Ms. Morgan, through the town's GIS system, calculated that average based on those properties within 300 feet to be, that front yard setback to be 46.19 feet. So it's greater than 20. So the applicant has revised his application so that the proposed structure would be set back 46.19 feet from the road.
So what happens with the setback on the right-hand side as you're looking at the property from the street?
That's what the board would...
There's,
So right-hand side, that's what the board would have to consider.
Yes. So there are two issues at hand, is the side yard setback, which is, he's not encroaching further into the side yard setback. Whatever structure he builds will be at the same side yard setback that it is right now,
on the right-hand side.
right-hand side.
Now, does that mean that the house is coming down that's already there?
That I don't know.
We're looking at the expansion of the nonconformity. You know, it's a pre-existing nonconforming structure. The applicant's proposing to
So
expand.
can he have two houses on that lot with the setback on the right staying the way it is?
The application only shows one house, to my knowledge.
Well, I'm the neighbor on the left, and I have great concerns about what he's planning to do with the building to begin with, because nobody knows what it's being made out of. From the description and what we had, it appears like it's a concrete block building. I don't know that for sure. But that's what it appears like on some sketches that I saw of it. And the other thing is, there's no known way of what he's going to do with the foundation, if he's going to have a foundation, or if it's a slab on grade. All of this kind of concerns me because of the digging and everything.
Right, so which element of the special permit statute are you referring to when you're referring to aesthetics or how it's going to be built?
Well,
Because I have to tie that, when I make my decision, or the board makes its decision, we can only consider evidence that's relevant to that specific element of these, in the special permit bylaw that Webster has. I believe there's 7 different requirements. So I understand, you might think that something is aesthetically unappealing, another person might think it is appealing.
The other thing is, how far back is he going to go with this house? How long is it from the street, from that 22 feet that you're talking about? I mean, he's going to be blocking everything at my house. He's already doing it with arborvitae. I can't see a thing out my windows, and I don't know what he's going to do, the digging that's going to go on, and how close he's going to be to my line of the 10-foot offset that you should have when you're building.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I believe the structure is going to, in the plan, it's 10 feet from your sideline, from the boundary that separates yours and the applicant's property. The structure is.
I'm just not sure. I'm certainly not in favor of this
Okay.
going up. You've read some of my notes in
Yep.
here. My name is Frank Yacino.
Yep.
And it's just a concern that I have of what the building is going to be like. I mean,
Okay.
we all have difference of opinion, so I just have a hard sell for that type of building. It looks like a box. And
Okay.
I just don't get it, that's all. And, one of the things that he said in one of his reports to you folks was he has to go out in the middle of the night and he's worried about the snow and how to get out. That's why he's got his porch there. And, you know, we all have to get out. I've got a 70-foot driveway, and I managed to get out too, you know, with my cars. But I just think the whole setup is wrong. Don't know what it's going to be like or what type of construction or anything. And that, I really would like to know that. And he is here right now, so he could tell us, and we would all know. And if he talks as loud as I'm talking, I'll be able to hear him. If he doesn't, then I won't even hear him, because I can't hear a one of you from where I was sitting at all. So it's just unfortunate. But I have a major problem with that, because it just doesn't set right with me. Even if he's going to leave the house down there, what's he leaving the house for? If he's going to take it away, fine. But he's the only one that can answer that, because I don't know the answers.
Okay.
Thank you very
All
much
right,
for letting
thank
me
you.
speak.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the public that would care to comment on the application? Okay, ma'am, if you would like to make a final statement.
Hi, so, you know, in reference, like we talked about, it's just a side yard setback, and it's no farther than the existing non-conforming building that's there now. The existing house that's there will not be there. There's just going to be one house on the lot. There will not be two houses on the lot. We're just using that sideline as our guide of where the new house is going. And we did, I believe, submit with the original packet some conceptual pictures of the type of structure, the type of house that he was proposing to build. I don't know if those pictures were, you know.
Which may, I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
which may and may not, right now, we're very step back.
Yeah.
We just met with the architect, and all these concerns and stuff is, we're here for one thing, just so we know when I hire the architect and tell them, okay, you have this box, where you can make the house.
I understand.
That's the only, we're at the very first, step. We're on step A from A to Z in the plan.
It's understandable. Okay. I have no further questions. Are there any other questions from the board? Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing for 70 Bates Point Road?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
And Mr. Piattar?
Yes, so there will be a decision ready at our next meeting that the board will decide upon, and then we will decide your application at that time.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I came for the 4 Bartlett Street hearing.
We closed that public hearing. We cannot accept any other public comment on that issue.
Okay, was the variance granted?
We have not decided that. There will be a decision written, and then the board will decide on the zoning violations and the variance application at that time. It will likely be at our next meeting. Yeah,
And I apologize for not, I thought there were 2 issues coming up on that.
I don't want to talk too much about it because we closed that public hearing, and I can't accept any comment from you, but there will be a decision written on both of those applications, and the board will decide that likely at our next meeting. Okay?
So there'll be one more meeting?
Yeah.
Decision is rendered?
Is
No,
that-
you'll make a decision at your next meeting.
Yeah, there'll be a decision at our next meeting. So it's a public meeting, but there's no public comment allowed. So you're welcome to come and observe the proceedings, but you cannot offer any comment or interact with the board as we discuss the decision.
I just want to go on record saying I didn't clearly hear you say that after that gentleman get up that spoke on behalf of the owner of 4 Bartlett, that I did not understand that you were not allowing any further comment. I didn't hear that. So with that, I just want to say that I'm in a butter. Please go by and take a look at the property.
All right, thank you.
Make a decision.
Thank you. Okay, 187 Kildare Road, the variance application to establish a buildable lot. Mr. Clerk, would you care to read the notice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In accordance with the provision of the Webster zoning bylaw, section 650-11.c, the Webster Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on a variance application submitted by Robin Hoffman of 3429 River Hill Drive, Pace, Florida, applicant owner, for frontage variance in order to establish a buildable lot on property located at 187 Kildare Road, Webster, Mass. Said location is within Lake Residential and Lake Watershed Protection Zoning District. Assessor's ID 58-E-8-0.
All right, ma'am, please.
Hi, my name is Maureen Simic. I work for Lake Realty, and I'm representing the owner for the sale of the property. That's almost a 21,000 square foot lot. On one side is the Kildare Island Association, on the other side is a paper road. So the lot goes out like a pie, an upside down pie, but there's only 45 feet on the road. Growing up on Kildare, there was always a cottage there. I knew the people, they're connected to town water, town sewer. The cottage got extremely old and dilapidated, and they ended up taking it down. So there is a buyer for the property that would like to make sure that if they buy it, it is a buildable lot down the road.
I'll start. So the unique site conditions would be the shape of the lot?
The shape of the lot, yes, so it's 45 feet by the road and over 200 feet on each side. So in total, the lot is 20,560-something feet.
Right.
So it's a large lot, really large lot. There's only going to be one structure in there, if at all. It's a neighbor that's purchasing it. If at all, there will be any kind of structure in there.
And the hardship is financial?
45 feet on the road, and yes, if he's going to pay that for a buildable lot, if it's not buildable now that the structure is down.
Right.
I was told once the structure was down more than a year, you needed to go for a variance.
Right, it'd be 2 years to be abandoned, but we're splitting hairs. Abutters to Kildare Island Club, is it not feasible for you to enlarge that 45 feet to 50 feet?
We're going to approach that. I'm on the board of directors of Kildare Island too, and we're going to try and see down the road if perhaps we could exchange part of 5 feet in the back for the 5 feet in the front, so it would be 50 feet on the road. Like I said, there was connected town water and town sewer there. That structure had been there for 50, 60 years.
Right.
It just got to a point where it was
So would
dangerous.
increasing that 5 feet be a substantial hardship in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's willing to, do things for the Kildare Island Club and the neighbors to make sure the property remains in wonderful shape. Right now, there's a lot of debris on it, there's a lot of fallen trees on it, so.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I do have a couple of questions. The road that goes up the side,
Is a paper road.
who holds the deed to that, though? Is that deeded to somebody, or is that a town road?
It's a town road. Talking with the assessor, Mark Becker, he said it's been a paper road, it's been on the books forever, maybe perhaps at one point It was kind of a cut-through. It does not go all the way through the South Shore Road. So right now, it's just kind of...
But it's shown on the map.
It is, as just a town paper road. It's not paved, there's nothing on it. It doesn't go anywhere.
Okay.
So that's not part of this property.
No, but if that's a town road, then there's plenty of frontage. I don't really get,
Ms. Morgan, would you carry that comment on that, or?
yeah.
Yeah, the building inspector and I looked at that as well. The paper road, that doesn't qualify for frontage in this particular case.
Okay. So you said single-family residential dwelling, that will be it?
Yep. And again, it's a very large lot, goes very far into the back, so it would just be that entrance.
And the use wouldn't create any abusive noise, dust?
No.
Nothing
No.
that would be out of character with the
There is
neighborhood?
vacant lots behind the property, and there is an extra lot that a neighbor owns to the left of the property, so there's nothing that would cause noise or interfere.
All right. Any other questions from the board?
Has you or the owner approached the town about the paper road?
I have. I was just told that it's a road that's been there forever. Maybe you can assist me with that, that it's not a cut-through. It's not something that people...
Well, do they want to sell it?
Oh, I have not. We figured we'd go this step first, and then perhaps that would be the next step.
Yes, the building commissioner did say that they're, with some research and some legal assistance, that they could get that declared abandoned, and then
Yeah, it's just overgrown. It's just always been there.
this is the faster route
Right,
right now.
Right, for now. I wanted to take it a step at a time. You can see by the picture that it's the way the lot is.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was...
So that's kind of that little paper road that doesn't go all the way through the South Shore Road. It's a nice, deep lot, and Kildare Island Club is to the left of that. So our hope is down the road, we can exchange the back corner for the front corner
Right.
with Kildare Island Club. But that would have to be in front of our board of directors, so we figured we would start with this to make sure that the lot is a buildable lot
Okay.
now that the house has been taken down.
Right. And there are other similar lots in that area that have decreased
Yes,
frontage?
yes. There are some that are 30 feet road frontage, there are some that are 35 feet, and they certainly don't have 21,000 square feet.
Right, so we're looking at 40 and
45, yeah.
43.75. Our screen's in front of us, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They can see what you can see there, yes. Yeah, there are...
So-
Yeah, 43.75.
Okay.
Where am I here? South Shore Road, 187.
A lot of them have the required 50
Yeah.
feet, Zero Kildare Road, that's a big vacant lot right now, so that wasn't included. Any of the vacant lots were not included in the analysis. There are a total of...
No, but there are quite a few lots up on the circle that have less than 50 feet,
Right.
and that don't have a 20,000 square foot lot.
Okay. All right, any comments from members of the public on the application? All right, any final questions from the board? Any final comments from you? No?
If it is granted, how long does that process take before we could close on the lot?
Well, we would have to close the hearing tonight, and then there would be a decision typed, and we would discuss the decision at our next meeting and vote upon it.
Okay.
And then I believe there are some recording requirements for the applicant, and there's also an appeal period as well that I think that you'd have to wait out, and then you would be able to
What's
proceed.
kind of the time frame on that? Another month, or?
And I think you're
You
more,
don't have a meeting date for July yet.
it would probably be in July is when we
Okay.
would meet, yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to organize
Yeah.
closings.
Yeah,
etc.
being a volunteer board, we typically meet once a month.
Okay.
So it would be July, and also with it, we have at least 2 other decisions that would have to be, actually 3 other decisions that would have to be
Like I said, it's a
typed.
vacant lot. There was always a cottage there for as long as I've been there, and it just was dilapidated and unsafe, so they took it down.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to close the public hearing on the on the variance application for 187 Kildare Road?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Knoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
And Mr. Piattar?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, variance application for 101 Lakeside Avenue, front yard setback for expansion of a deck. Mr. Daggett, would you please read the public hearing notice?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. In accordance with the provision of the Webster zoning bylaw, section 650-11.c, the Webster Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on variance application submitted by Robin Hoffman. Is this the...
No, Wendy Burdette.
Sorry. I'll read the other one. It starts off the same.
Yes, it does.
In accordance with the provisions of the Webster zoning bylaw, section 650-11C, point C, the Webster Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on a variance application submitted by Wendy Burdette, 101 Lakeside Ave, Webster, Mass., applicant owner, for front yard setback variance to construct a deck located at 101 Lakeside Ave, Webster, Mass. Said location is within Lake Residential and Lake Watershed Protection zoning districts. Assessors ID 40-B-16-0.
Ms. Burdette, you have the floor.
So what I'm looking to do is to take the lower deck, which is my main living area. It's about 3 feet wide now, which is, everyone stand up so you can scoot by to sit a little further on the deck. I think it's 23 feet long now, and what we're looking to do is to make it 10 feet wide and 20 feet long.
Okay.
Using composite decking and the very front, which actually, the front of my house faces the lake, to put glass in the front of it as well.
What's the current setback from that, of that deck?
We've been back and forth on that, and I measured it out again today. The proposed deck is 10 feet wide. The total variance request for the new deck is now 10 feet. She's already 3 feet into the setback.
Right, so we're not into a special permit with this deck because
No,
she's...
it's an expansion of the existing nonconformity.
So so that's a special permit. It's existing nonconformity.
Yeah, no, but she's expanding the special permit is when you don't expand the nonconformity.
Since we have counsel here, I think...
So, actually, there's a line of cases on this, over the last 4 or 5 years, Gale v. Foster and Dietrich. So
Yeah.
you don't need a variance if you're expanding or intensifying an existing nonconformity for a single or two-family. So this is part of the structure,
Right.
a residential structure, so we need to find it to do that. A variance is only required if you're creating a new nonconformity.
Right.
That didn't exist before.
Right. I was going to call you today, Ann, on that, but...
I think
Gives
that was,
me such a headache.
part of our
Yeah.
class we had too.
I thought if it didn't expand it
Yeah, no.
beyond what was already
No.
there.
There's a case on point that you don't need a variance if it's a removable deck. I was bored, I was on Westlaw today. So,
So what's the board's option so she doesn't have to re-advertise?
so this is, so the variance is a very high standard. You'd have to show unique site conditions, a hardship. Those two can be difficult to meet. A special permit is much easier because you're looking at the existing surrounding neighborhood and saying, essentially, does this not fit in? Does this detract from the character of the neighborhood? I'm not going to issue legal advice and say what you should or should not do. But I think that's something we probably should discuss is how do we amend this application so that it's a special permit, not a variance, but I'll let counsel.
Mr. Chairman?
Offer a comment.
Well,
Maybe you want to go first.
The section, what we just were dealing with at 70 Bates Point Road, and I think this is where all the confusion really came in, 65021, the setback lines.
Yeah,
Again, doing that analysis within 300 feet, she actually technically needs 28.
right, but she's already within that line,
But she's within that line.
already, with the garage as it sits as of today, she's with, or date of the application,
Okay, I just
she's
wanna-
within that 28.1 feet, she's within 20 feet.
Okay, all right.
So that's why we do have a slight problem.
Okay.
Yep.
So I agree with your analysis, Mr. Chairman, that a finding is sort of a lesser finding than the variance standard. So if the public, so the standard for the notice is whether or not a reasonable person reading the notice will come here tonight to participate. So if the application is amended and you proceed on that basis without renoticing it, really the person who bears the risk is the applicant. That someone's going to complain that the notice was defective. So in other situations, the applicant has accepted that risk, and the consequence is that you have to start over.
Right.
Do it again. But if there isn't an appeal, if there isn't a challenge, I think you can, as long as you straighten out the paperwork, get a corrected application, request before the board to amend it, have the board accept that, and you don't necessarily need to re-advertise, even though it's a different application under a different section.
Right.
But if someone had read the variance application and had an objection, arguably
Yeah.
be here today.
Right,
So you're not necessarily prejudiced, but someone could come forward and say that they were prejudiced and they didn't know because it was a different section of the bylaw, so that claim could be made. So the applicant needs to understand that it could be subject to challenge if you go forward as things stand right now.
right. So the applicant would have to make a request to the board to amend her application and file it. Right, and
So I do actually have one of my, actually, next-door neighbor. If you look at the house, you can see the truck, which is my kind of my only neighbor, is right next door to me. And she's actually here as far as supporting to have any issues with it. I don't know
well,
if that makes
the
a
risk would be
difference.
yours, because if this was, if the decision was appealed for notice, then that runs the risk of delaying your application. That's the risk that you would take. It's,
Okay, I'm not sure I understand, but I think I do. So I can just amend the application?
you would
is what
have
he's
to
suggesting?
ask the board to, am I getting this correct, counsel, that we'd have to vote to allow you to amend it. You could ask the board to do that, and we would have a vote on that.
Okay,
Or you could withdraw your application without prejudice and refile a special permit application, then you would go through the notice and the other requirements that you just went through. But, so you would gain probably 1 to 2 months in time by asking the board to amend it.
so I would ask to have it amended,
Okay,
please.
so you're asking the board to do that?
Correct.
Correct, okay, so is there a motion to allow the applicant to amend her variance application to a special permit application and file it with the building department?
I'll make that motion.
So there's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Morgan, could you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
Mr. Piattar?
Yes, thank you.
So what do I do? Just,
You file your special permit
okay,
application.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I could, because you obviously were going to take action, if you were able to close the hearing tonight, take action, I could have a rough draft decision for you at that next meeting.
If it's not too much work, yes.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and that way, she's not losing any time, and she knows she's at risk, but
Right.
I'll get that paperwork
I
filed.
think she understood that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other business before the board? Ms. Morgan?
Your next meeting date.
Next meeting.
On that,
The back.
Yep.
on the last matter, are you continuing that to the sir, or are you supposed to?
Oh, yeah.
For nice purposes.
Right, so we do have to pick a date in July.
You have somebody in the back that had a question. You have a
Yeah, the
question?
public hearing's still open, yes. Right.
I couldn't hear that.
Can you just restate that?
My name is Krista Canavan. I'm at 103 Lakeside.
Mm-hmm.
And from my perspective, we were given notice for, and I believe it was called an expansion non-conforming variance versus a special permit. And to us, it doesn't make any difference. It's more of a bylaw or a process for the town, and it affects the same purpose. So my question for you is, if we're going to change it to a special permit, can it be decided this evening versus having to come back? Or is there a process where it has to be heard again in front of the board?
There would have to be an application at minimum filed.
Okay,
That's
so the
special
verbal
permit.
application isn't sufficient?
No, no.
Okay. Because at the end of the day, it's the same effect. The deck is either
Yeah,
going to be approved and
yes,
built or not.
the structure is the same, but the analysis varies differently.
that's
And
what it is.
the reasoning that the applicant gave for the variance would differ for the special permit.
Okay,
So procedurally, she needs to fill out a special permit application and submit that.
okay, and so then it gets continued to your next meeting?
It would be continued to our next meeting date in July.
Right, and my neighbors saved from having to renotice, and the intent is the same, so all of the neighbors who are in support of it we can consider our support again at the next meeting.
I'll consider your support if you're in support of it, yes.
I'm in support of it. I think it would add to the feature of the house. Instead of having the catwalk-like deck, it would be a beautiful deck where they could sit out, and it would, I think, improve the appearance of the front of the home.
All right, okay.
Thank you.
And as a courtesy to the abutters, I'll send a notice,
Okay.
a revised notice. It won't come by green card, it'll just come by regular mail. So you'll know the date and time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Would any other member of the public care to comment on the variance application that's going to be amended to a special permit application? All right. Looking for dates for our next meeting in July. Ms. Morgan, would you propose some dates? Or any dates that would be good for you? The third and fourth week are acceptable for me.
Yeah, any of those? We've got planning board on the 26th.
27th is no good as well for me.
I kind of like Mondays.
You like Mondays? Want to do the 19th?
19th works for me at this point.
19th. The other thing for the applicant, that meeting will be via Zoom. Just so you know, you're aware, that will be via Zoom. Yes,
19th?
yes.
Does that
19th?
work for you?
Yeah, 19th 's
19th.
good. Why is it Zoom?
I believe the decision, one of the decisions that we had, particularly with 4 Bartlett Street, it was discussed that, Ann and I discussed that with the advice of counsel, that Zoom would probably be preferable for making that decision.
Okay.
Does anybody object to a Zoom meeting?
No?
So you'll have to have a motion to continue the public hearing for 101 Lakeside
Yeah,
to July 19th at 6 PM via remote participation.
yeah, okay. So June 19th, 6 PM, or July 19th. All right, so is there a motion to continue the public hearing for 101 Lakeside to July 19th at 6 PM via remote participation, Zoom, or similar mode of video conference?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing no discussion. Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
Mr. Piattar?
Yes. All right. So we have our next meeting date. Any other new business? No, any other closing comments from council that we need to consider? Nope.
Further here.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn to July 19th at 6 PM for a meeting to be held via remote participation, Zoom, or other similar mode of video conference?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Morgan, would you please poll the board?
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Canoyer?
Yes.
Mr. Daggett?
Yes.
Mr. Fails?
Yes.
And Mr. Piar?
Yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.